All right.
Hey everybody, how we doing? It's Bluebird on your shoulder. I'm Ryan. This is Josh and Josh, or Josh squared, however you want to look at it. And we're here to whisper in your ear about things that are really going on. This is a political podcast, and we're here to have fun. You're not always going to love us, and we're not always going to love you, and then we're always going to love each other, and it's a good time. So I'm going to open with this one, and this breaking news. Big week. We had the inauguration this week. Donald Trump is the president again. That's such an exciting proposition. At least we know there'll be a lot of entertainment. But we're going to open right here. Andy Ogle from the Tennessee 5th Congressional District has proposed a House resolution to amend the Constitution to allow a president to have a third term.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh,
That
already?
is what we are dealing with, and I have often hoped for the best, and I think in reality we are seeing that we are going to get worst case scenario. Um, Good news, in my opinion, is I don't think you will ever get two-thirds of the states to ratify that. Maybe
No.
37 states. I don't think that's going to happen. However, he does seem to have a very good stranglehold on 27 of those. So if he only had to flip 10 states, it's crazy, but yeah, it's already started. And we have many, many, many more things to discuss. He has been president for just over 72 hours.
Has it been 72 already?
Yeah, because
Not for
we're Thursday at 8,
24.
Thursday at 8:40 at night. So you're looking at 80 hours and 41 minutes. He's been the president of the United States, and we've already well over 100 executive orders have been signed and pushed. So
Which
well over 100.
which is funny because they're okay with that.
Oh, of
In one
course.
day, he did over a
Oh,
hundred.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then they wanted to trip when Biden and Obama did 100 in their first year. They wanted
Mhm.
to say abuse of power.
I mean, it's what's good for the goose is always never good for the gander, right?
Right.
Like that's the pot and the kettle are very synonymous with MAGA. So that's a very hard reality for them. But I've there's been a lot of executive orders I've taken. Like I, I thought we were past the point after all the years dealing with this where I could literally be stunned, and we've done a few things that have definitely been stunned. One of my big ones right now is rescinding the 65 equal opportunity. And that's now granted, it's not the law that people think it is,
Yeah.
but it was an executive order during the civil rights movement that was very important. That kind of set the guidelines for it. So I don't want to spin it like the far left will spin it that now you cannot hire somebody because of the color of their skin. It's not 100% what it is, but the federal government now does not have to take into consideration anything. And it also allows one thing it does open the door for is it allows you to not hire or fire a woman because she is pregnant.
Mm.
So I think that is a major deal that is not actually protected in the law. It was protected in the executive order.
And
So
I feel like a lot of things that he has done is just positioning him and his cabinet to enact Project 2025.
quite possible. I talked with two of my conservative friends in the office today, and we talked about this one, and we actually got into a pretty heated discussion about race and equal opportunity, and what our government's responsibility is in order to make up for our shortcomings in regard to um, minorities and women over the years that have made it so that their equity in this country is slanted, where they have not been able to build the same way that we have, even if my family squandered it, his family squandered it. Individuals, that's one thing, but as a whole, our country has a responsibility to make avenues that are easier for people who didn't have easy avenues, coming up to this point.
Well,
And
not only that, they didn't have easy avenues, but they also built the foundation of which your family squandered.
right,
So, like, we benefited off their labor and X and X and X. You
right,
put
right.
a whole bunch of words there. And I don't want to, well, okay, I kind of do want to demean. And in the reality, I had somebody, I mean, I overheard in my business. I didn't engage with them, but I overheard them talking, and the guy's like, simply, I don't care. And the only thought that ran through my mind is, well, that makes a lot of sense because you have to have X level of intelligence to care.
Right.
So
Well,
you have to understand before you can care.
well, and
And
a lot of people can't get past themselves far enough to think about it in the broader sense. And this executive order is what is going to allow individual people to be discriminated against instead of what our responsibility as a whole to minorities and certain classes in regard to historical action that we have failed to take appropriately.
definitely, it's so weird to me that I don't know, like they liberals have a lot of punch phrases that a lot of people don't understand, and white fragility is one of them. And a lot of people just don't seem to understand that phrase, right? That punchline. And in
Mhm.
reality, that's what it is. That's what you're seeing, right? Like it's if you don't understand it, it's what you're actually doing.
Right.
It's that, well, how come because they're X, they get a foot ahead because
Yep.
I'm white, so why don't I? Or
Yep.
that's racist against me, or that's
Yep. Yep.
you're singling me out, or you're discriminating against me, and it's not factually incorrect, but it's or technically incorrect. There we go. It's not technically incorrect, but it's factually incorrect.
Right.
Like because there's levels of reasoning, there's stair steps as to why that exists.
Right.
And that fragility of like, well, I want to be special too. Well, fuck, we make up what, like 7% of the world's population, white people, and we own, I think, like 92% of the first world countries. You know what I'm saying? Like we're so very few, and we it's just I don't know. Like I said, I mean, in our failed attempt at the first time, I've never thought I would see the day that a bunch of white men would be so insecure and afraid of,
Well, it's manufactured really because they understand that most people don't think beyond their own lives and how it affects them. They're able to play upon fears where, it's the immigrant class that are taking our jobs. It's the blacks that are taking our jobs. It's these people are demanding that we call them this instead of just being a considerate human being and and doing as they ask you to. These things are viewed in a way that are presented in a way through propaganda and whatnot that there's only so much of a pie and they're demanding more of the pie than what you're afforded the opportunity to get. And that's just short-sighted because they're only looking at their lives right now instead of historically the positions that we have either taken advantage of, squandered, um, or otherwise um, kept them out from. So women in jobs, you know, being discriminatory towards pregnancies, blacks in the workforce, blacks voting rights. We talked about the three-fifths rule and things like that. And when when our conversation got to a head was when they were breaking it down into that, I've never seen. And that's when I had to remind them that, I'm not talking about my life. I'm talking about, in a broad sense, what our country's responsibility is, not what we are owed or what they feel like they're entitled to. It's what our responsibility is because of what we've done to people. And when we have those types um, of actions that we need to make up for, we can get into reparations and stuff like that, which I don't think is the right answer. So, at what point do we say, everybody has to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, but we also have a duty to make up for what we did to people. And that's what this policy was designed around. It was to give them an avenue of less resistance so that the ones that qualified were able to move into jobs that could otherwise be kept from them by people that didn't necessarily have a better job history, but were more in line with the HR manager's view of what a good employee is.
That's really true. I mean, I think in a lot of ways for me, it's like, how do you break down the, cognitive egocentrism, right? Like where you believe that the way you were raised and the experiences you had are what everybody does.
Right.
That you go through. So I was raised here in the Midwest, and you know what I'm saying? I had this, and this was what my society and culture were like, and this is what my education system was like. Therefore, that's what it's like all across
Right.
America,
Right.
right? And that's not factually reality, right?
Right.
So you know as well as I, when we were in college and we went, down to Alabama to do some service work. And we're tutoring in a elementary school, in
Yeah.
a middle school, and in the middle school we're in a sixth grade science class, and I'm tutoring a kid, and I'm like, "Well, get your book," and he's like, "Well, hold on, I think somebody has it," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," and goes up to the desk where his teacher's at, and he comes back, he's like, "Yeah, somebody has it right now," and I was like, "What do you like? Who has your book?" He's like, "Well, it's not my book." And I'm like, "What do you mean it's not
There's
your
only
book?"
10 for the
Because
class. Yeah.
right. Like, oh, we only have this many. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wait, what? And he goes, not for the class, the school,
Yeah.
all of the class. So nobody got to
It's
take a book home.
underfunded.
Oh, I mean,
Right, right.
because
So completely. And the other part of that is this kid was like 17 in sixth grade because there's no social promotion there.
yeah.
So it destroyed my constructs that an education system where I grew up in not a wealthy area, but a well-off area, middle class area, where I had books in my book bag and I could put them in my locker and I got to take them home. And even the kids who didn't necessarily pass, you didn't have a 15-year-old in fifth grade or a 17-year-old in sixth grade. Social promotion happened. And that's the first time I really got a real world example. So then they say, well, everyone's given the same opportunity. That's factually false.
Yes.
And that's why these laws and systems are put into place to level the playing ground for people who do not have, so that a kid who goes through those schools in Alabama can still go to Harvard.
Yeah. And
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 that
part of what we talked about, and you know something about it, is like redlining, which is, in real estate where mortgage brokers wouldn't give loans to certain groups of people because of the area that they were trying to buy in, or in there was a large story a couple of years back of a family that was a black family that were trying to sell their home, and the appraiser came in, undervalued the property, and they felt like it was because of their race, so they scrubbed the house of anything racial,
artifacts
and
and pictures and
yep,
everything.
and
Yeah,
then they came back in, they got an appraisal
100K more.
over what
Yeah,
their list price was.
Right.
yeah.
So
So
over market value, right?
right.
Oh yeah.
So
So these things really are still part of the system, and we are still seeing these types of discriminations happening across minorities and different social classes.
Yeah.
And
I mean, so
Ryan, what you brought up about Alabama there kind of reminds me of how I've felt for years and having discussions with my son because he's, a young adult, 22, and has busted his butt to get where he's at and he's doing well. So he feels like you just have to work hard to make it and that everyone's got the same opportunity. And I had to have a conversation with him some years ago and explain to him like what you were saying is that it's just factually false, is not everyone has the same opportunities.
yep,
He never had to really worry about like are the lights going to be on? Is there going to be hot water? Is there going to be food? He didn't have to worry about falling asleep, like I did because of where I grew up, of gunshots and sirens and things like that. Like, he is essentially a suburban white kid,
Yep.
you know, and
Harassed by the
and
police.
yeah.
You
So
know,
like, it's a really good example of the quote unquote American dream is essentially dead, and we really need to reassess what that idea is,
and
because
that
That's
it's
I,
not what it
I
made out to be in the Industrial Revolution.
I mean, you're right, and I think that that's a big thing, right? Like, I think that's why a lot of people feel disenfranchised, right? Is
Mhm.
like, I think at some point, especially in our generation, maybe the generation above us who overwhelmingly voted for daddy, got to point that out that you voted for daddy because you're soft and you're scared, partner. Um, but they were sold a lie, right? And that like as long as you do this, this, and this, and this, you get your house, your white picket fence, your wife, your three kids, right? Like that's your two kids, whatever it is, right? Good car, it's easy. It's not, right? It's not. Like we're all, middle class, working class people, and we bust our butts to provide. And just like, everybody else. And it's just really interesting to me and like compiling that like minority voters for him just it blows my mind. And I've talked to quite a few of them and I interact with them a lot. And they're like, well, da da da, and he's not, so on and so forth. And like maybe here nor there, right? Like there's a lot of arguments he is, there's going to be arguments he isn't, and I don't really want to go down that road. But what I try to explain to them is I grew up in rural white America, and not everybody, but the majority don't like you,
Mhm.
and they don't want you here. And as soon as they'll be nice to your face, but as soon as you walk away, they're going to call you things and they're going to tell jokes about you that are inappropriate, and they don't see you as an equal human being because of the color of your skin. It's just a reality. I grew up in that reality. I'm not saying I grew up in like some small 2,000 person town either. It
Right.
was rural. It is rural America, but growing up we were probably about 60K. You know what I'm saying? We were about 60,000 people, and like a majority of the people did not like anybody of color.
Right.
And there was different religions they didn't like either, right? But they
Well, and
really didn't like
they
anybody of
would say
color.
that they would say that they don't have, prejudiced or racist values, but you can see it in the way that they act, the way that they talk about people
Yeah.
if they fall into those classes.
Hmm.
One of the things that I talked about again today was in this my time in the army um, made different ways of looking at the prejudice and racial differences. And you know in the army we say, there is no black, there is no brown, there is no white, we're all green. And when we fight together, we are brothers, forged by forged by battle, not by blood. And but in those places, we still saw, our black guys were, jokingly, told jokes about, or prejudiced type of stereotypes and things like that, fried chicken, watermelon, stuff like that. And what it was supposed to be in jest, but if you really look at, the people that it was coming from, oftentimes leadership, it was a way for them to justify dehumanizing, certain soldiers. Um, so even though it was supposed to be, we're all green, nobody has a different colored skin, there was still these stereotypes and these attitudes that still were able to push their way into the ranks. So,
I mean, I fully agree with you, right? And I think there's an interesting reality, right? And I am not the most politically correct human being on the planet by any means
You
whatsoever.
don't
But I
say.
think I don't think that PC, like I think there's it's all lumped together, right? Like it's all lumped together. So like, do I have a problem with a stand-up comedian on stage telling a off-color joke? No, I don't.
right.
Because you're a comedian and you're doing a job and that's your job and that's what you're doing. And if you can tell that joke in front of those people, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if you tell jokes about all the people, then okay. I don't have an issue with that, right? Like it's not prejudicial, but like do think in a lot of ways what happened is like they took it all the way and it went too far, right? And like people weren't allowed to say colloquialisms anymore,
Right,
right?
right.
And like I'm
Well,
not
and
gonna say them here and make it so we can't put this on YouTube and
yeah.
but like there's like the R word, like okay, I feel you. Maybe it's bad and maybe it's this, but it was a colloquialism.
Which one?
It's you know maybe it didn't become
Yeah, I think Ricky Gervais, has been a great proponent for that pushback, where there have to be spaces where these types of discussions can be fleshed out, and I think that comedy is a great one. We grew up with Eddie Murphy, Robin Williams. Um, I mean, what are some of the ones that are so like
well, I gotta say is one of the best political comics of all time. I wish he was still alive because he'd be having a heyday right now.
oh
So,
yeah, yep,
no, but no,
him
I
and his
mean,
thin
you're right.
ponytail.
But I think that's what's happened, right? It's like, so it went so far in one direction, and then the other group of people used that. Like, I can't say, GAY anymore, and I can't say this, right? And
Yeah,
I can't say this. And they equivalate that to you shouldn't make racial stereotypes about people
right,
and they put those together and like this is bullshit, right? Like
right,
I shouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like
yep,
I should be allowed to say whatever I want. So like maybe if we didn't go here, which became colloquialisms, it didn't even mean what people didn't want you to say. They
right,
didn't mean that anymore. You
right,
know what I'm saying? You say the R word, it doesn't mean somebody has Down syndrome, right? Like that's not,
right.
it's a different thing, right? Like, and it's not used for, it's used by me regularly
Yeah,
because I don't care and you don't have to like me, and that's fine because there's like 7 billion people on the planet, and I'll find another one.
what's the second greatest
So
American word?
yeah, I mean, it's just things like that, right? Like, and I just think like we've pulled all this together, and then we have that cultural ethnoism. I screwed that word all the way up, right? Where like now white people want to believe that like their culture is the only valued one, and I see that like I scroll Elon fascist Musk's Twitter all the time now because now we Nazi salute people or we give people our heart because we're autistic and we don't know what the hell we're doing. I don't know,
Yeah,
but um they say things like the reason you're third world is because white people didn't conquer you, and
yeah,
it's like saying
that's
that
straight racism. Um,
right, and it's saying that like the white culture is the best culture.
well,
And
and
I grew up in white culture, and I'm not really sure what the fuck you're talking about.
right, well,
So
and I
if any
think
white
that,
people are watching this and understand our culture, could you tell me what it is?
and
Because
I
to
think
me, it's being a prejudiced douchebag.
I think what's more dangerous than that is the people that use things like cultural appropriation. There's one where this guy walks around and he goes up to a Rastafarian and says, "Hey, can I wear dreads?" And they're like, "Of course, it's for everybody." And then walks up to a Chinese lady and asks her if it's okay if he does something that's Asian, and all these people are like, "Yeah, that's fine." And what it does is it makes the awareness of those types of issues seem like they're trivial and that they don't deserve to be talked about or fleshed out. And that's one thing that we saw with a lot of black comedians, in the 90s was they were fleshing it out. They were making it so that the teeth that stereotypes and racism had were ground down to nothing because they were celebrating it, and when we try to deny somebody their heritage by trying to shame them or make them feel like it's for everybody, we're taking away, what made their culture unique and trying to make it sound like they don't deserve to have that because now they're American. Now they should speak English, you know, and I,
I mean,
I
all I'm going to say is, if I'm in a foreign country and we both speak the foreign language and we see each other, we're going to speak English to each other because it's our native language.
well,
So
and the thing is that I talked to my kids about this last week was most countries learn English
Yeah.
because that's where the economy
Yes.
is. That's where the money is. So they learn it as a second language that is part of their regular school curriculum. And that is something that America just they need to get on board with. They need to learn that children that use their brain in two different ways in language are able to think more complex and they're able to understand more about what's outside of this.
hmm no, it's you culture your children early, right? And they understand that there's more than just what it goes back to that, right? Like egocentrism, right? Like it go they are open the door that one way isn't the way. There's lots of ways.
Right, right.
So, and that the human species,
Hmm.
right? And we're all everyone's always said we all bleed red, we're all human beings, right? But that's reality, right? We're imaginary lines on the map are what separate us, and
Well,
that's
and
what we,
and and what I like to talk about is the brain is a calorie saver. So our brain burns more calories than any other part of our body. And so in its pursuit of longevity and survival, the brain has learned how to save calories by stereotyping and classifying things as dangerous or not dangerous. And
that's why so many MAGA are overweight.
So what we see is the brain naturally moves in that direction, and when we don't think about it, when we just let it dictate how we treat people without moving into a conscious realm where we're actually learning about a person and judging them by their character, not by the color of their skin, that's when stereotyping becomes bad. And that type of stuff is where Americans need to really get down and get back to what we did in the 60s, you know, where the civil rights movement was able to galvanize people all to realize that all people are created equal. And it wasn't just something written on a piece of paper anymore.
It's not a battle back and forth, right? It's a fact. It's a reality. It's not a
Right,
battle back and forth where we can't do for you because then you're not doing for me and blah 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 blah.
right.
So, Josh, what's the thing that has caught you the most that he's done? Like that's the flesh that one all the way out. Like what has he done that's just completely blown your wig back?
Just, I don't know. It's been a lot, and it's just literally everything that these people. It's like they believe him, like like I've said many times before, like he is a god to them, and everything that comes out of his mouth, man, they just drink that Kool-Aid, like, and it doesn't matter if it's a bold-faced lie, that's their truth, and you can't tell them otherwise. And there's so many things that he has done already, as far as one of the things I talked with somebody about yesterday is he repealed something Biden had that was keeping prescription drugs down. Now they're going to jump anywhere from 60 to 90%.
Yeah, dropping
Then you got to
cap and
think, well, why
insulin
is
at
that?
35
Why?
bucks.
Probably because he's buddies with someone, that's CEO or something like that with Eli Lilly. Or
See,
it
I
was
think
a Biden
yeah,
thing and he's too
there
prideful
you
to
go.
understand
I
that it's
think
good, just like he did the
right,
last time when he went in and rolled back 70 something things that Obama did
I
because it
think
was a
ultimately that's what you
Democrat idea.
right. I think that's what you did. So because Trump had passed some stuff that did cap certain things and did
Mhm.
do some damage, but it wasn't large enough. It wasn't all encompassing. It
Yep,
didn't identify certain key areas, right? So Biden kind of rolled that back and then put his own plan in, and I think that hurt his feelings, right?
yep,
That narcissist in him,
yeah.
right? That malignant, that
Well,
yeah, it hurt his feelings.
and it doesn't fall into his narrative where the Democrats are evil and they're taking away our country and I'm the only one that can fix it. only I can do this. So anything that is used by anybody
And he
else
can do
or
it quickly
came
and
from,
better
yeah,
than anybody.
then that can't be
Huge.
the case. And so he has to make sure that even if he was to replace it with the same thing letter for letter, he would say that it was his. And that is what this torrent of executive orders was meant for. Half of them don't even have teeth, but he's passing them so that he can say that he did
He
it.
did all this stuff,
You
even though
know,
most of them will fail.
now the one thing that does have teeth, the one thing that will degrade our country more than anything is his pardoning of the J6 participants.
Oh yeah,
And
and
I
I
agree with
just
that.
love how they try to compare that to, well, Biden pardoned umpteen thousand people before he left, not people that tried to violently overthrow our government.
right.
Well, I've seen a lot of argument that Biden pardoned a lot of people, like not talking about the pre pardons or however word phrasing they're using there,
Yeah.
which I'm not really sure where I fall in there. I understand why he did it, that's for sure, because you're a nut
They would have
job,
been
bro.
targeted.
Well,
Yeah,
because
because
they
you're a
were
nut job,
already
bro. You can't
targeted.
be
Yeah.
trusted. You
And,
can't be
and let's
trusted.
address
So
this right now with his son. Come on, people, let's be real. Any good father would have saved their son like that.
Well, and it's
yeah,
not even just saving. Okay, so I don't know if you know any drug addicts, but
Yes,
every single one of them lie on a federal form to secure themselves their Second Amendment rights.
correct.
it's true.
So if you think for one second that Hunter somehow deserved to get the book thrown at him for that, then you're
I mean,
not
I give.
thinking
I,
objectively about it.
I respect him for biting the proverbial bullet for him, right? Like, okay, maybe this will stop it, right? There's a lot of examples of things that happen, but like swinging back, like it's most of
It's
the people
revenge to
Biden released, but most of the people Biden released, literally, I think it's like 80% or 800 something in there. I don't know
nonviolent.
the exact number off, but it was for marijuana possession.
Right. Non-violent,
Right. Like,
non-cartel drug offenses,
yes,
which
right.
Did you see today he pardoned the uh two cops that killed a black man in North Carolina?
It was Washington, D.C., but
Washington,
yes.
D.C.
mm,
Okay.
So it was Washington D.C. But like going back to
That's
what you
crazy.
said, I do think the pardoning of the January 6th, like, okay, so I don't know, I didn't follow every case, right? Because there was too many of them, and I don't think I would have had a problem. Like, yes, there were people there that weren't there for that, right? That they were there because whatever they believe this or whatever, blah blah blah, so on and
well,
so
they
forth.
wanted to see the
And
spectacle, be part of the
right,
spectacle.
well,
Yeah.
and once the breach had happened, and like, so you strolled in, you took a little walksy
Took
around,
some
and
pictures,
you took
cleared
some
some
pictures,
shit
you
on the
rolled out.
wall.
Okay, cool. You wanna, you know what I'm? No, that's what I'm saying. Not those people, right? Just
Right.
the right. Okay, cool. Pardon those people,
Right.
right?
Right.
I'm okay with that, right? Like maybe
Yep.
they shouldn't have been prosecuted, right? Like they were caught up in a groupthink moment, right? Like you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So cool. But then you have the people that's what they were there for.
Right.
They were there to stop the certification of the election.
Yes.
They were there to circumvent the Constitution.
And they did
And
meet with the president beforehand.
the cops,
They
right?
were there for that specific reason, and they were violent. You know,
Mhm,
not only did it kill one man, but there were five other police officers that died subsequently thereafter
mhm.
because of
Yeah,
that incident. You know,
yeah, and it's like those people can't. They're you're a traitor.
right,
That's
exactly. That
treasonous.
you
What you did
attacked
was right,
America. You
right.
didn't go into the Capitol building and you didn't try to prevent the certification of the votes of for the new president. You attacked America. And
Mhm.
for that,
Domestic terrorism.
people don't understand that I am quite serious when I say I took an oath to defend the Constitution from people foreign and domestic, and that was domestic terrorism.
It was domestic terrorism. Like I said, I will fully agree that it wasn't all the people, and it might not
Right.
even be the majority of the people.
Sure.
But there were people there that was their cause. They wanted to kill Mike Pence.
Yep.
They wanted to cause harm. They wanted to stop the certification of the election. And
Yep.
there's the The police opened the door and let him in. Yeah, at a certain point, it did happen, but they had
Yeah.
already used chairs and shattered windows and taken shields
Right.
and crushed cops. And like there was a point where they didn't have enough force to stop it.
Yeah.
So now you have to allow it.
Mhm.
And we're gonna divert our resources to keeping the people under our care safe, and
Right.
we're going to get them out of here. So they diverted their resources and allow you to go in the front, but that's a whole bunch of people who have an opinion that don't understand tactical
Right.
situations,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Like
but
this was
let's
a
not
tactical
forget it's all
situation.
Pelosi's fault, right?
Well, yeah, there's that too, and I don't even understand these conspiracy theories half the time, right? But it's like those people did not deserve to be released, and then to find out that the leader of the Oath Keepers, who was sentenced to 18 years and was pardoned, then he got to hold court with a group of people in the White House.
In the White House. Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to so the way I look at it is one of the very first things he did was release his militia.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if for somebody like what you said to wrap right back around, like that militia is going to be very imperative when the people realize that they do want to institute Project 2025.
Right.
Yep.
And
And
that might push people far enough to want to do something about it, right?
Mhm.
And he's going to need that militia to protect him because I think that I'm not going to speculate to a huge degree, but I think that there will be too much dissension to ever actually count on our military to do it under
So,
order. I think there's going to be, it would be too many sects. The military would fragment in that
so,
scenario.
well, and that's something that we've talked about is that if this goes forward the way that the trajectory is showing, our union will fracture and there will be violence. And I think that what the pardoning of the J6 was basically him validating his brown shirts, and I've told a couple people, if you defend this and you support him, then here's your brown shirt. Congratulations,
Right.
because that's what you
So
want.
I actually had a friend reach out to me today, known him for some years now. And he said, you've been saying it for years, and I didn't necessarily believe it till now. He's fairly apolitical, right? Like he definitely doesn't have an ideology or a
Yeah,
party. Um, says he vote, maybe he didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, but he's like, you've been saying for years that like I'm a World War II guy. I like it. I've studied it for a long, long time. Goes back to being in fifth grade and pulling the W Encyclopedia Britannica and
like
flipping
Trump.
through it because I finished my homework early, right? And so I've studied it at great detail, right? And the one thing that I never ever understood until now is how did the German people allow that to happen?
Right, right. And I talked
And
about
now
that
I'm
today too.
watching the American people allow that to happen.
Yep.
And he came forward and said, I always kind of thought you were a little bit crazy. And now I've realized we are watching the American people allow that to happen.
Right.
And I think that it's interesting that a lot of the people I have discussions, well, I say discussions, but I just tell them they're stupid, on social media is like they don't even understand what fascism is. They don't understand that fascism isn't
No.
actually a form of government. It's
Yeah.
not democracy or, a republic or a communism
Dictatorship.
or
Yep.
right, a dictatorship. It's not a form of government.
Nope.
So it's a style of leadership,
Right. Right.
and they don't understand that that's what it is, right? And yes, it has little pieces of this and this, and most often when I challenge them to define it, so define it for me, they define communism
Mhm. Yeah.
and then say that's a leftist thing,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, you're right, communism is a leftist thing. However, all fascist situations that have ever existed in history are a right thing, a far
Right.
right thing.
And
So because
also,
that's
there
where
has
the
never been a
authoritative,
communist nation.
well, we're not going to get into the speculation. I've told them that, and they don't understand, bro. They
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
they don't understand
No,
because they often,
no.
so many people, like I was discussing with somebody today, the merits of whether he did or didn't Nazi salute, right? And I was explaining that the Nazi salute was not actually the first time that had been used. It was originally the Roman Legion. salute,
Yeah,
and it
the
was
whole
different.
Roman salute thing. Yeah.
Right. Well, it was the Roman Legion, and it was a different way. Those different hand motions, right? Very similar. And then in 25, Mussolini made it the Italian fascist signal, right? And then Hitler liked it, and he took it. And then people are like, "Well, here are these pictures. The military isn't doing it." And I'm like, "You're so undereducated. Like the
Right.
military didn't have to do it. That wasn't for the military. It was for the civilians,
Yeah.
and it was for the civilians to prove the love and loyalty."
Right.
Right, to Hitler, and the military didn't have to prove love and loyalty because they were fighting a war for him.
Hmm.
That's how they were proving love and loyalty to him,
Right.
right? They were fighting the war for him, or they were the assets, or they were the Gestapo, or they were the brown shirts, or
Hmm.
you know. And but it's that movement from the heart to, you know what I'm saying, and that 60-degree angle, and that's what he did.
Right.
And the guy's like, no, no, no. And I'm like, no, that's a very specific reason. There's reasons for it. He wrote about it. There's literature in it. And they're like, point out the literature, point out the literature, point out the literature. And I'm like, I'm not going to do your work for you.
So
You know,
so
I'm not going to do it. If you wanted to know, you would try. But then he ended up, and I was like, I wrote reports on this, da 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 da, and I wrote papers. My exact word, I wrote papers. And his response is, well, I'm glad you did a book report. And my response to that is, I fully understand that the level of education you had in your life, a book report is the maximum level of paper
the
you
highest
think
form of
exists.
yeah.
Right. The highest
So
form of paper you
so
think exists is a book report. However,
so
I'm not talking about that.
so what I talked about today was they're showing like Hillary Clinton talking about like this is where we're at right here, we need to be here, and this is the same thing as what that is. And and uh and so somebody said, oh, so you're an expert on Nazi or on Nazi salutes. And I said, well, my minor was in religious studies, and we talked a lot about symbology and rituals, and that classified as part of it. And when I did my studies on Western religion, we talked about these different forms of government that uses rituals and symbology in order to move a people the way that they want. And that was one of the biggest ones. And if you have been alive in the past 100 years and are under the age of 20, you know what this means. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You
If you're
know,
over
he
the age of
knew
20.
what he was doing.
Yeah. No, he did, and I don't I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to argue the merits of whether he did or didn't. I overtly don't really like the guy. I think ultimately his qualm is familial related, and I'll leave it at that. Um,
Freudian.
He meant
for
it
now,
as
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, it's
He
familial
really hurt
related, and I'll
daddy's
leave it at
feelings.
that. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that. And I just think like, we're to the point like, it looks like, Hega's going to get confirmed. And I didn't think that was actually going to happen. Like if the two that I absolutely didn't want to see confirmed, and one of them didn't even, he bowed out quick enough when they were like, we're going to disclose that you paid little girls for sex.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well,
Like, and so he bowed out gracefully. Well, not gracefully because he's a douchebag, but
right.
he bowed out. Right. But this dude, like, I'm not military, right? I'm not. I won't claim to be. That's
He
kind
was
of
a
weird,
reservist that reached the rank of major, and
right?
he's supposed to be dictating policy to the Pentagon, which are full of 4-star generals, 3-star generals, 2-star generals, 1-star generals, colonels. Like there is a whole class of officer that he never even got close to. He didn't even have to get a formal or a master's level education in order to become a major. And he didn't lead troops in battle. He was a company commander for one deployment, and the man has zero war college experience. So
Well, that's
and he's supposed to be directing spy agencies, all the alphabets, and our military. He will be eviscerated by those that earned those positions, and
well,
I
not
guarantee
only
you he
that. I
won't he
think
won't last very long.
I think there's another part of that, right? Like, so there's that's the domestic side of it, right? But that person needs to be respected globally
Right.
by his peer,
Right.
his equal, his equivalent,
Yep.
right? The Chinese equivalent, the Russian
Yep.
equivalent, the North
Yep.
Korean equivalent, right? And he's not going to be because
Right.
they know he's not qualified to do this job.
Right.
Yes, he's educated. He got a good education, prestigious university. I'm pretty sure he went to Harvard.
So,
Well, whatever. You go to Harvard, you're probably educated. That's all I'm gonna say. I didn't go to Harvard. I don't know, but you go to Harvard, you're probably educated, right?
a
Uh,
bachelor's level education is a bachelor's level education.
that's fair. That's
He
fair.
didn't go for his master's. He's not a
No,
doctor,
no,
and he
I'm
didn't
with you,
go to
but that's
war
what I'm
college.
saying.
So,
That's what I'm saying. I don't
right,
think he has the relevant experience. Yes, you do
right,
have experience, and I do like you served and you're a combat veteran, and I respect that, right?
right.
You went to war for us, dude.
Yep.
And I have a level of respect for all people who went so I'm outright like you're not gonna you can find me there, but I am absolutely positive my favorite thing to do is troll Mega on Twitter. And it's still Twitter fuck X. I it's my favorite thing to do. It's my free time, it's my hobby. I enjoy it. If I realize they're a veteran,
Hmm.
I don't do it.
Yeah.
I won't. I'll openly tell them, like, look, normally I would engage with you and call you all kinds of things under the sun and talk about your mom and your daughter and all this, right? But you're a veteran and you served our country, and a lot of them they are combat veterans from the same tours you did, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to do that to a veteran of our country. You served our country. You put your life on the line so that me and my children and my bloodline could be free, and I have the ultimate respect for that. So I'm not even going to troll you on Twitter. Now, if I don't know you're a veteran, it's free fucking game. But when I know you're a veteran, that's the only thing that stops me, right?
Except
So
for
I
that
will
one guy
give
you used
him.
to write college papers for.
No, I don't even troll. He actually just tried to refriend me. Um,
I
it's the only
accidentally
person I've unfriended over politics this whole entire time. I
same.
just couldn't do it anymore. So he actually just tried to refriend me, but it did. I'm just not going to do that, right? So I give Pete all of that. But at the same, you're simply you do not have the relevant
Yeah.
experience to make you equivalent or equal to your equivalents
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
foreign world, and you have to be in this day and age. You have to know how they're going to think, because at the end of the day, they're not our friends.
Well,
They never have been, and they never will be.
most conflict happens in the brief moments that those people meet. It's we don't actively fight them on a battlefield. It's done in that moment and in covert ops. And the
Mhm.
man has no idea what a covert op is like. And he will utterly fail when it comes to trying to tell those kinds of people how to do their job. And that's why I think, 6 months at best he'll be
All
gone
right, well,
because
that's my original hope was that it would be somewhat similar to first term, right? Where we just
right.
have there's a
People
lot
that,
of,
yeah,
a
yep.
lot of
Fire,
velocity,
fire,
right?
fire, 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 fire,
Right,
fire.
a lot of velocity, right? A lot of
Right.
velocity, high volatility, left and
Yep.
right, volatility, like it's constantly changing, and you just don't have time to
The
really
one
bear it down.
difference the
But
one difference I think that we have to look at now is the fact that he did come into this with real politicians in his ear. The
some
first
of them,
first time was mostly populist nationalism that drove him to victory, and a lackluster showing on the Democrat side. Same for this one, except this time he's got serious people that have serious objectives that are seriously going to change what America stands for and what America is if they move forward.
I think you're 100% right about that, and in every aspect of the term. And like it's in like his executive order to earn end birthright citizenship. Like, dude, that's a constitutional thing.
Right,
Yeah, it
Like,
already
right.
got halted though by a federal
like
judge.
Yeah.
no, well, of course, and the federal judge was appointed by Reagan, so we can't say it was a Democrat. And he
Right.
literally said this is the easiest case that has ever come across my bench ever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because it's clearly in the Constitution that
Right.
there's a lot of things in the Constitution that are somewhat vague, or
Yep. Yep.
this ain't vague at all.
Nope. Nope.
It's you know what I'm saying. And what I think is the funniest thing in the world about it is your Secretary of State, who did get confirmed, Marco Rubio, would
Mhm.
not be an American
Right.
because he was born in America to two Cuban
Yep.
immigrants who were
Yep.
not American citizens yet.
Yep.
So your own Secretary of State wouldn't be an American citizen. if
And we
your
basically
rule
called
passed.
Trump a xenophobe until he
Well,
needed to
So they
suck
got to
Trump.
chop.
we all capitulate, right? We all, right?
Not
Like so,
all.
well, no, I mean, no, definitely not all. Here we are, right? Fuck
Right.
it. But like even I saw a tweet from the ADL semi-defending Musk, and I'm like, really? The ADL's pulling a Zuckerberg?
Right.
Like that's what's happening? Like we're gonna capitulate. We're gonna be a
Yeah.
Joe and morning show, whatever. I don't know. I don't watch those crazy people either. So it's just like I don't. Worst case scenario may very well happen. And that's like I don't want, and I think what you say is real, like the propensity and possibility for violence is becoming more and more real, and
Did either one of
I
you
don't
guys
want
catch
that.
what the CEO of JP Morgan said today?
I did. Yes. Yeah.
We're already in World War III.
Yeah.
We just
It's
don't know
very
it yet.
possibly true. No,
He
that's
believes
that's
World
very
War III has
possibly true.
already started and that we will head for a major conflict very soon with Russia and China.
And I mean, if if Trump tries to, you know, say that he doesn't need Putin to hide his PP tape anymore, I think that we will be looking at, them butting heads where Trump has done nothing but, try to,
Well, he
and
just threatened him. It was either earlier this morning or yesterday about more sanctions.
yeah, and
But then he
um,
wants to help him stop the war in Ukraine.
no,
Well, no,
Because he said
he's
it's
finding
destroying
he no
Russia.
he's well. That's I mean, hey, there's some day one promises, right? And that's my
right.
favorite part about Trump is he is the dude. He'd be the worst baseball player ever. So his batting average would be abysmal, bro. So like the price of eggs, nope. Price of gas, up. Price of eggs, up. Stop the Ukraine war on day one, up. Nope. 0 for 3. But we can rename the Gulf of Mexico. Like that we can do. Right. Like so you anything
Uh,
that actually matters to the working class,
yeah,
which I do firmly believe is one of the between the immigration and the price of goods because people relatively don't understand money and inflation and so on and
mhm.
so forth, which we're not going to open that can of worms today. We'll open it later, though. We promise you we will come back to you guys and open that one for you. You've done nothing for those people. So you've renamed a golf, but you haven't done any of this, and
No.
you're you're doing allowing Russia to do what they're doing or to keep any of that land
Hmm.
is anti-American. It's anti what we've always
Right,
forever stood for.
right.
And the last time we took that isolationist stand, World War II and World War One happened.
Yep.
Right? World War II definitely, World War One, the two worst conflicts in the history of mankind happened because the most powerful country in the world decided to just not care.
I
And
said today, if we want to continue to be the city on the hill, we have to stick to those principles that made us a great nation. And when we stop, you know, valuing the plaque on the Statue of Liberty, and we stop trying to help people that are without, we stop being America as it was meant to be.
yeah, we used to do things for moral reasons, for just reasons, because they were right. You know what I'm saying? That we used to do. I'm one of the most immoral motherfuckers on the planet. I hope I probably shouldn't have dropped that one, but it happened. Um, right? But at the end of the day, that's not the country I grew up in.
Right.
It's like I believe that, right? Like you have the flag behind you, and I love my country. I truly do. But it's not a play pretend Lego set love.
Right.
It's not a it's a genuine love for the concept
The concept, yes.
of the United States of America, which was what it was. And it's like we've talked about before, like it was not only a concept, but it was conceptualized by men in their early 20s.
What was it Marcus Aurelius said? Um, it was that to even whisper about it would risk destroying it. when he was talking about democracy in the Roman Empire. So when we're talking about the principles that make America what it's supposed to be, these are the things that concern us most. And when I talk about traitors and people supporting rapists, like how how could we ever get to that point where we're trying to say that an old man who compliments a teenage girl on her hair smelling nice because he's standing behind her taking a picture is the equivalent of raping a 14-year-old by having her, I won't even go into it because it's so disgusting that this is even something that we can talk about when it comes to
Yeah.
our leaders. Mm,
No, it's we live in very strange times. That's We have very strange times, and oddly enough, I think we might have the appropriate president for very strange times because he's a very strange man. And I think your point that's undersold a lot is what you said. This time, he actually has people who know what the fuck they're doing,
right. And
and that makes him a little bit more dangerous than he was last time when he had people who were like, "Yeah, bro, you can't do that."
yeah,
Like that's not now he has people who are like, yeah, you're not supposed to do that, but we'll figure out how you can.
yeah. We'll
Right.
we'll
So
we'll we'll figure out the wording so that we can get it through. Yeah.
right. So which is, legal mumbo jumbo and ease and all that good stuff. But I mean, like I said, like 82 hours in, 81 hours in, and it's already an absolute roller coaster.
Yeah.
And we got to strap in because it's going to be a bumpy ride. And I just think the vitriol is getting worse, and it's the you talk about tribalism a lot, and
Mhm.
it's like I don't dislike anybody because they voted. I don't understand why you did. I don't understand why you can't see what I see,
Yep.
but I don't think it makes you less than,
Yeah, and
right?
and for my friends that are out there that voted for him for the economy and voted him for, policy reasons, cool. But stop defending the rape that he has committed and don't make excuses for J6. It was wrong. It's okay that that was wrong, but by making excuses for it and making it allowable by him and by supporting that kind of thing, we are supporting the undermining of our Constitution.
Yeah,
There's
you might a lot of people out here might have voted him for A, B, and C.
right.
But you have to have a hard reality check that there's a group of people behind, empowering, I'm not really sure, right? A cabal of people
Mhm.
that are not in this for the same reasons you are.
Yeah.
And their end game and their desire is a white Christian nation.
Yep.
That is what they want. That is what their aims are. That is what Project 2025 aims to be.
Hmm.
It is at the end of the day, it's about white Christian nationalism.
Yep.
And it's anytime that religion gets mixed into politics, historically for thousands of years,
Yes.
it goes terribly.
Genocide
It
usually.
goes, yes, it goes terribly. It's just not, this is not something that should happen. Um, they were, like I said, the Constitution has a lot of ambiguity in it, right? Because there's like where it changes and the world was different then. There's a few things that don't have any ambiguity in it,
Yep.
right? And one of those things is church, state.
Yep.
Nope. So, and Second Amendment right? Like people have obviously figured out we've a little bit to the left here, but we're all pro to a left it.
Absolutely.
Like they don't think we exist, but here we are. I'm no that there's not a whole lot of ambiguity in that either, right? Like okay, we do have the right to defend ourselves. Like we can get into the conversation whether you should have weapons capable of causing mass casualties in a very short amount of time. That's, I won't call it an assault rifle because then they get all upset about it's not actually assault rifle, which it isn't technically an assault rifle, but now we're dealing with semantics. So I will call it what it is. I should not be able to 3 round burst 27 students at lunch.
Yeah.
in one clip.
Have the full auto clip switch
Bump
on your
stock.
hand, yeah, on your
Yeah.
Yeah.
handgun.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
that's what I'm saying. But anyway, there's not a lot of ambiguity there, and there's a lot of executive orders, and I think we should really a lot of them don't have teeth. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, because his people are not. They're willfully ignorant.
Yeah.
They're
And
willingly, not willfully. They're
and
willingly
it's
ignorant.
positioning for, these racist and bigoted types of policy shifts and attitudes that they want to normalize.
yeah, and
Yes,
So,
let's
it's
earmark something while we wrap this up because it's 9:40. Um, he has set a record for highest approval rating for the first however many hours in office at 59%. We'll see how fast that falls.
oh,
fair enough. And it was what I read earlier today is it was pretty much racially across the board. It was equal
Yes,
across all the
I did see
races, and
that. Yeah.
that's one of the first times that's ever happened. So fair enough, credit where credit's due. And I think that does actually have a lot to do with immigration being a key point, and ICE is active, ladies and gentlemen. They are active.
Yep.
So you shouldn't break the law by harboring, but you don't have to tell anybody anything.
yep. Know
So
your rights, know the law, and do what's right.
So yeah, but until next week, we're definitely going to leave you. It's Bluebird on your shoulder, and we're always going to be here for you.
Peace.
See ya.